Miami!
To mission control, we have liftoff.
Phinhub! Phinhub! We talking Dolphins city! Phinhub, Phinhub! Yeah! It's that Dolphins show! Phinhub!
Welcome to the Phinhub Show, the one NFL podcast you can't leave off your roster. Now here's your hosts, Joe and Kevin Tejedo.
All right, good morning, guys. Welcome in. Good morning, Dolphins fans. We have a good show lined up for you guys today, but before we do that, I want to give a special shout out to some of our viewers. We're building quite the morning community here. So Timothy, Cap, Yuki, Scotty, Ziggler Wiggler, Dorian Sims, Slushy Sloth, Samuel Wise, and the boys down at Lost Art Barbershop. Ron, you know I need to book an appointment with you, bro. It's not looking too good over here. Flaco, what's up, dude? Diego, you guys are great, man, and thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for keeping me fresh, man. So, guys, let's also remember that we have that giveaway going on, so drop those comments, gain those entries, and hopefully you're the lucky winner. Kevin, we got some news yesterday about Tua. It wasn't the best news, so I don't want to start off with that today.
Yeah, let's
mix it up. We'll definitely
ease into that.
We'll get towards that at the end of the show. But for now, I want to talk about the training camp that's coming up, and we got some pretty interesting battles that are going to be taking place. What position are you looking at right now as one of the most important battles that's about to take place?
Well, you'd like to think it would be at edge, right? Because, you know, we definitely have two guys coming back from injury and Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. So I think that's a really important position, something that we prioritized in the draft. You know, obviously drafting Chop Robinson, Mo Kamara, and then also bringing in Grayson Murphy as an undrafted free agent. But yeah, you know, also bringing in Shaq Barrett as a free agent as well. Signed him to a $9 million deal. But yeah, you know, as far as what I want to go over here is basically how the rotation's going to be. Because, you know, in the perfect world, we have Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb back, and they're going to be, you know, 100% healthy. So I'd like to see maybe once they're back, who's going to take that, you know, third and fourth position as the edge rushers to be involved in the rotation. So I want to get into Mo Kamara, man. Mo Kamara obviously had a bunch of production in college, Mountain West Conference Defensive Player of the Year, first team all MWC, tied for third in the FBS with 13 sacks. So yeah, you can see there that in college, you know, the production was definitely there. He can get to the quarterback. You know, sometimes you don't have to get too fancy with it and have a big, you know, arsenal of moves.
Yeah,
so
he just goes after it, tries to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, so I mean, other than that, you know, I wouldn't want to get too into it. I think he's great, awesome to have on the team. Maybe he can, you know.
But you have him competing with Chop Robinson?
Well, yeah, that's my next guy on the list. So I want to get into Chop Robinson now. Yeah. So yeah, Chop Robinson, you know, different situation here. Just as far as the production, it just wasn't there on the field. But man, his first step is crazy. He's crazy explosive. He just screams elite talent. You know, he's got one thing in his arsenal, but that one thing is a superpower in my opinion. And according to Pro Football Focus, Robinson was the fourth highest graded pass rusher with a 20.9% pass rush win rate, 13th highest in college football. So you already see that he was constantly about to get to the quarterback, but the production just wasn't there.
Yeah, kind of like our deal with Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips almost had a zillion sacks, but
yeah, over the past few years, you see that like he's about to get to the quarterback, but you know, either the quarterback gets it off or he just misses him.
Yeah, just unlucky timing.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd like to think that it's going to translate in the NFL. I think he's going to be great for us. He uses his agility and short area quickness to disrupt rushing lanes, and it's clearly an asset. Still, his ability to stack and read is hindered by only average play strength and eyes that are also hurt due to poor length. He's just obviously a little bit stubbier there, but man, just that one thing that he does is just, it's brilliant footwork. He gets off the line super quick. I think he's just going to be fantastic year one because, you can't teach what he has. You get me? And,
So you
and
think
that's all he needs.
those are the two guys competing for what, the third and fourth spot at edge?
I do think so. And there's also Grayson Murphy, another guy. You know, most of these guys on this list that we brought in are actually shorter in stature. You know, they're not these big edge rushers. But yeah, Grayson Murphy had some good production too, 5 sacks and a pair of forced fumbles last year. He shows impressive quickness and change of direction. But other than that, you know, I think those two guys, Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara, are gonna challenge, I guess, Shaq Barrett in the rotation. But Shaq Barrett, I think, is going to be there. He's a valuable asset to this team already. Someone that's, you know, proven it at this level. But I think it's great to have a guy like Mo Kamara behind him as well that can, you know, learn from him. So if I had to round out this rotation, I think Shaq Barrett's going to be the third. And then I think Chop Robinson is going to be the fourth.
Yeah.
But I don't think Mo Kamara is going to be that far behind. I think he's a fantastic talent as well. I mean, when you can do it on the field, there's some of these guys that they just, and Shaq Barrett's another one. It's the same comparison, right? They don't scream this elite level of talent like, oh, this guy, look at him, he's just a freak. He does all these badass things. But they just know how to do one thing, and it's get to the quarterback. So as long as he's doing that, we're not going to have an issue there. I think we'll have more than enough to eventually replace, like we talked about before, Bradley Chubb. And, you know, I'm excited for this room. I think the sky's the limit. Do you have anything to comment on these guys? Like anything that you think?
I think it's very interesting, the idea to replace Chubb. It looks like the Dolphins were trying to do that this draft, to draft two guys in Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara, two really good talents. It does seem like they're headed that way. So I'm happy with the selection in Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara. At first, I wasn't too thrilled about the idea of drafting an edge that high, but
yeah,
it makes sense now.
It definitely
now it
does.
makes sense.
And I would have to say, because I remember I wasn't happy either, but I think it was because of the idea of getting that third receiver, right? And we hadn't signed OBJ yet. Obviously, the news of Malik Washington being drafted wasn't out yet because that was the first round. So I think we were so hung up on getting, you know, the guy out of LSU that we loved. What's his name again?
Yeah, I remember who you're talking. Brian Thomas.
Yeah, exactly. That, you know, once Chop Robinson's name came up, it was like, oh. But then, you know, once you start looking at it and you're like, yeah, actually, you know, it's a really fun pick.
And I loved, actually, you know what I really liked about Chop Robinson? How much he wanted to be in Miami.
Yeah, you saw that after, right?
Yeah,
From the recordings.
Let's play here.
They got verse.
LA was too far away anyway. We really want.
I ain't want to pay them taxes anyway. I'm good. I ain't want to pay them taxes. Feel me? I need Miami. I want somewhere warm anyway. Let Pitt get a corner and come get me, Miami, please.
So yeah, you can see how bad he wanted to be in Miami. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think that's the common theme. I feel like the Dolphins keep bringing players that want to be here. It's not.
Yeah.
In years past, you know, you're floating around this big money at people. Obviously, he didn't have a choice as a draftee, but you know,
if he did, it would have been Miami. That's what it seems like.
Talking about free agency, though, it's like before we had to wave the money in their face, and it's like, yeah, screw it, I'll go play with you guys. But there was nothing to believe in. Now these guys are like...
Yeah, and you can kind of see that in the contracts that we're giving out to these big names. They're taking a lot less money to come join Miami, so that's really, really cool.
No, it's beautiful. And finally, it's something that I've seen other teams be able to do, you know, like the Patriots in the past and, you know, all these contenders that they're able to bring in these guys on cheap deals, and you're like, shit, man, I wish we could have gotten that guy for that deal. Yeah, no wonder why they're so good. Look, they're able to sign all these guys for these cheap
That's
deals.
Because they want to be there because they're contenders, and Miami's building a nice team here.
Team. But yeah, the edge rushers, you know, it's a position that I thought was one of the biggest needs, if not the biggest need, you know, coming into that draft, and
because of the injuries,
because of the injuries, exactly, and you know the departure of Van Ginkel. Even Good has been injured, you know what I'm saying? So not someone that I want on the field, but, you know, it was just completely thin. I think we only had like two or three edge rushers actually on the actual roster, and all three were hurt.
Yeah.
Are hurt, right now. But now we have Shaq Barrett, Mo Kamara, Chop Robinson. I like Grayson Murphy. I think he can do something.
Yeah, we'll see if he makes the roster.
We'll see. I mean, also it's cool. He's a twin.
Yeah.
His brother and him actually were pretty productive at UCLA. If you bring up this graphic, it shows. Yeah, his level of production in college has been pretty good. It's not like we're bringing in these guys that are just filling a little void that aren't going to do much. I think these guys can be key contributors right off the bat. And I'd like for all three of those rookies to be on the team, So looking forward to that. And, I'm curious, who do you have as far as, a position that you think they're going to battle it out this offseason?
So for me, I'm going straight to the running back room. We have Mostert and Achane. We just added in Jalen Wright. We already have Jeff Wilson. You got Salvin Ahmed and Chris Brooks. So a pretty deep room.
Super deep, right?
But there's some decisions to be made there. And the battle that I'm looking at right now is going to be for that running back 3. It seems like Devon and Mostert, they just pulled away from everybody else. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
So they're 1 and 2 respectively. I don't know who's going to be 1, who's going to be 2. It could go either way. But I think running back 3 is even more important now, considering that Mike McDaniel wants to flirt around with the idea that Devon could play some snaps at wide receiver. So that running back 3 could see even more playing time than previous years. So it's a good one to look out for. In my opinion, I think it's going to be Jeff Wilson versus rookie Jalen Wright.
Okay.
And on one hand, you got Jeff Wilson, a guy that Mike McDaniel himself brought in, a good all-around back, had some injury concerns last season. But overall, it's a guy you can rely on. He's been pretty solid for the Dolphins. And again, he's one of Mike McDaniel's guys. So he's going to make the roster. He just restructured this offseason. So I believe he is going to make the roster. That's not really the question here. It's more so who's going to be that running back 3. Now, on the other hand, you have Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright, a rookie. And what's another thing that Mike McDaniel absolutely adores? It's that speed.
Yep.
And this guy has that in bunches. That guy is nasty. He's built more or less along the lines of a Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. So you got these guys that have all that speed, crazy speed, but they're going to get tired. You sub them out, bring in Jalen Wright, and you don't skip a beat. It's like you have the same player out there doing the same exact thing to the defense. The defense won't be able to catch a break. So what will Mike McDaniel value more going into this? Will this be more about experience, or will it be more about that blazing speed that he loves so much?
Yeah, as far as Jeff Wilson and him, right?
Yeah, Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. That's who I have right now.
I'd like to think the youth, right? McDaniel's definitely he has his guys, he picks them, and they're gonna be a huge part of this offense, no matter what, right? So I know Jeff Wilson is a Mike McDaniel guy too, but the youth and Jalen Wright, the speed, the pass protection that he also offers you, I think he's definitely going to be a big part of the offense as well. I do think it's going to be a running back room like by committee.
Yeah.
So
you know what's another interesting thing? Maybe what happened here with Mike McDaniel and the reason why he's curious to see what Devon can do at running back is because we brought in Jalen Wright. So maybe he's thinking, wow, this kid's great, but you need Devon to be out there as much as possible.
Yeah, it's finding a way to get all these guys on the field at the same time, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, so maybe he felt so good about Jalen Wright at running back that he figures, all right, let's try mixing it up. We'll throw Devon Achane at wide receiver here and there, just so we can also bring in Jalen Wright, and Jalen Wright can also run the ball for us. Like you said, really good with the pass protection. All around, also a pretty good back, tough, physical guy, can catch the ball too. So I really like the addition of Jalen Wright, and I like having Jeff Wilson around. It's going to be a good battle to look out for. Ultimately, I do think Jalen Wright ends up being the winner of that battle. But another great back and forth between those guys. So
Yeah, you feel like he just keeps hitting with these, Mike McDaniel, right?
Yeah.
And obviously Jalen Wright, we haven't seen anything yet, but you saw the tape and the type of receiver he is, the
he's a stud,
breakaways.
man.
I mean, sorry, the running back he is,
Yeah.
but that breakaway speed, he's just it's nuts. So to add another guy like that, now this room is going to be a lot more fresh. We can rotate it a lot more. I feel like with Raheem Mostert, he just ends up, which last year was the best year I felt because he was able to stick around throughout the whole year. You know what I'm saying? Actually be there at the end of the year. But, I still felt like he was a little banged up, So now this room can be a lot more fresh. Hopefully, adding Devon Achane, giving him a different type of role. He's not going to be as banged up, right? So then at the end of the year, you can have hopefully all three of your guys, relatively fresh because they're not taking 20 touches a game, running the ball. And, essentially that's going to be good because it's just going to give you that element that you really need at the end of the season, which is running the ball, especially in the playoffs. You want to manipulate the clock, right?
yeah,
It's not these quick scores. And, this also helps against the Bills. The Bills, our biggest problem, I feel, is that on offense we strike so fast. We're not killing the clock. We're giving them more time to have the ball. Josh Allen to eventually do his thing, So if we can squeeze every second off the clock with that run game, yeah, I think you make a great point. I love that group. I think Jalen Wright would be the third, if you ask me as well, and Jeff Wilson. I think he's gonna make the team. So
I think he's going to make the team too.
Yeah.
I don't want to overlook Chris Brooks and Salvin Ahmed, who he's a guy who's been hanging on to the end of that room for years now.
another guy Mike McDaniel loves.
Yeah, he's been solid for us too. Like I can't really complain about him. Not much is expected from him, but when he's out there, he's not bad. So
No.
he's a valuable back. We also have Chris Brooks, who made it onto the roster last year, and it was exciting to see him run the ball. He's a guy that something we don't really have as a running back right now. He's
like
the
a
only guy
power
that
back.
power back. Like he's the
Yeah.
only guy that can offer that. So it's cool to see the different style from him, but I think he lands on the practice squad this year.
I'd love to. There's quite a few guys on this team that if you can keep them on the practice squad, so we talked about this before, but another replacement, right? So
Yeah.
like you see Jeff Wilson, probably going to be his last year with us here. I don't see us cutting him as well. The majority of his contract's guaranteed, so it's just wasting money at that point. That could be the Jeff Wilson replacement, right? Sneak him on the practice squad. There's so many good running backs in the NFL. And I don't think anyone's going to go knocking on the door to pick up Chris Brooks off your squad, right? So I think that's fantastic as well. And a good point to keep him on the practice squad. Love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So moving on from the running backs, what other position group do you think has an interesting battle happening?
Man, I feel like we're going to talk about this a lot, but the wide receiver group. And I think it's that number 4 receiver. The 1 through 3, very obvious. I think the 3, you put a little bit of a question mark on as well, just because, health concerns, as always with OBJ. So, it's a 4, but can trickle into the 3rd territory, right? But at number 4, it's a 2-man race for me.
Okay.
By the way, and it's 2 young guys, 2 guys that we absolutely love, that I know Mike McDaniel is just salivating over what he can do with these guys, how he can mix it up and get them the ball as well. And the first one is Eric Ezukama. We clearly love him. I think he's fantastic, with his size, his length, and his strength. It helps him beat press jams as well. He's versatile as he can, line up anywhere as a running back, as a wide receiver. Just a guy with strong hands, good contested catch ability, attacks the middle of the field with frame. He's a willing blocker. And another yak guy, man. Another yak guy, that's what Mike McDaniel wants to do, and attack people with yak. And he said that in an interview.
Attack with the yak.
Attack with the yak. So it's cool, man. I was looking up some stuff about Ezukama as well, and there was a few quotes that I saw from an interview. It was last year, right? Coming into the season.
Okay.
So basically, he said a couple things that I found interesting, and coming into the season, he said that he felt 10 times better. When asked about his apparent improvement, I feel like I'm probably like 90% on playbook and knowing exactly what I'm doing. And I found that interesting because his first year, he was basically redshirted. He didn't play at all because he couldn't grasp the playbook. I don't think it was a question of his ability or his athleticism or what he can do on the field. It's a complicated playbook. And if you can't grasp that, you can't be on the field. Obviously, you need to know the plays. So I found that interesting. There was a couple other things, basically him saying just being a big body threat, jump ball, downfield short passes, just being a big target for anywhere on the field. He really wants to be involved in this offense. You see that through his preparation. You see that through all the off-field work. Unfortunately, he's been riddled by injuries, but I think this can be the year that he brings it out. Wes Welker, that's basically his mentor right now, same school, was banging the table for us to draft him as well. So I see him being brought along way better, and it's going to be a lot more efficient because now there's a guy in the third year of this offense, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a guy like I love Malik Washington. I'll go over him now, but he's got a little bit to get there. You know what I'm saying?
He's going to be playing catch up, I feel.
Yeah, it's a little bit of playing catch up. And as far as what Azukama has, you can't teach some of that stuff, that size, that length. You know what I'm saying? The ability to jump as high as he jumps,
Well, he's a guy, just by looking at him in stature, he offers something that Tyreek Hill can't, Waddle can't, OBJ can't, Devon Achane can't, Malik can't. He's the only guy that's Braxton Berrios, another one. The only guy that's above 6 feet that could get those high jump balls. He's also going to play in like that Deebo Samuel role. So obviously he's a guy that Mike McDaniel would be thrilled to have as a wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
If he can put it all together, understand the playbook, stay healthy, that's a huge win for Miami.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's all about health, right? I feel like that's been the story.
The theme of the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's been the theme, right? And, it adds context to why we crumble late in seasons. And I don't know if that's, due to our training staff or, that side. But it's definitely something if we can manage to improve on, I feel like this team can really go far,
Well, I think a way to do that would be to balance the offense, spread the ball a little bit more. Having 3 running backs that actually get the ball, I can actually split the ball carries. Having 3 solid is an understatement, but 3 solid wide receivers in Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and OBJ, spread the ball, not evenly, but spread it around, give everybody some love. Give some love to wide receivers 4 and 5 as well. And I think that should help with the injuries down the line.
Yeah.
Obviously, freak accidents are going to happen. Football's going to football. But, if you could spread the ball, spread the carries, hopefully that'll help down the line at the end of the season. Maybe have a little bit more tread on your tires.
Yeah, and limiting the amount of times these guys get hit, right? The wear and tear on their bodies.
Yeah.
So I do think, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, the running back room. I think it can be the same with the wide receivers, right? Because towards the end of the season, the biggest problem was that all our guys were banged up. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. So if we can get these guys all involved, kind of make it another, collective, like this group can be something that they work towards everything together. It's not like, all right, Tyreek Hill has to fucking carry everyone on his back and make sure that this wide receiver group is exceptional, right?
Yeah.
So, going into Malik Washington, I think the good thing about him is that you're getting a guy that's extremely talented. You see it all over the tape when you go over it. Good ability to function in traffic, very good contact balance which supports his yak ability. Very good short area burst. Good change of direction. He's a sudden mover. The guy is just electric, right? He doesn't have that long speed, but in the open field, it's really hard to get him. Kind of like a running back with the ball in his hands. Shifty, exactly. But you'd like to think that guy in a slot role on this team would be perfect, right? And another weapon. I feel like Mike McDaniel can figure out some other way to get him the ball, get him involved in the offense. So between him and Azukama, I think I'm gonna edge it towards being Azukama as the number 4. But Malik Washington can't be that far behind, in my opinion. Just, the level of production that he had in college as well. I feel like it translates a little easier for a wide receiver when it comes to the NFL, because when you see the talent, you see the talent at wide receiver. It's not like these guys, this guy's going to have a hard time. It has happened in the past, but you see it with Jalen Waddle. It was like instant, right?
Yeah.
You see him on the field in Alabama, you're like, this guy's got that little weird it factor. I see the same thing with Malik Washington. And I think once he gets on the field, it might be a case of, bro, we can't get this guy off, man. We got to continue to keep him out there. And I don't know. I'm going to leave it at Azukama, but Malik Washington's right there. He might be able to beat him out there. So
I'm also in line with keeping Azukama or having Azukama beat out Malik for wide receiver 4. And it's really coming down to, Malik he does seem like a great prospect, but we have so many guys on the roster that mirror what he does in Tyreek, Waddle, OBJ, also Devon. Like, these guys are all shorter in stature. Devon, a literal running back that we're transitioning possibly over to some time at wide receiver. So for that reason, I'm going Ezukanma, beating him out at wide receiver 4, offering us some different kind of ability with that size, that jump ball, him also being able to run the ball, like that Deebo Samuel role that I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
But this is actually an interview from Malik recently. Let's play that real quick.
Yeah, I think the way that they run their offense, the motions, the different ways they use people to get open and allow them to just be themselves, allow them to work, I think that'll be very beneficial to me. Just getting a chance to find some underneath routes, find some ways to get open, and then let that yak, some of that, a big piece of my game, let that shine through.
Reading some of the stuff scouts have said about your game, they compliment your toughness. I'm kind of curious where that was cultivated in your past. Like, how did you get to that reputation of being a tough player?
Yeah, man, some of that stuff you can't cultivate it. You got to be born with. You got to be born with a certain mindset, a certain toughness. And I feel like ever since I started playing football, that's just how I play. That's how I play the game. That's how I see the game. And it's going to be hard nosed. You're going to have to stick your nose in there, get dirty sometimes.
Focal point there in Virginia, you're joining an offense that's already got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, as I know you're well aware. Based on your conversations with Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, where does your skill set fit into an offense that already has so many guys that can do so many special things with the ball in their hands?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get with the coaches and we'll talk more about, specific roles and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm joining the best receiver room in the NFL. I'm joining Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, guys that have proven themselves, guys that have just done a great job at being receivers, done a great job at being ball carriers, and great people as well. If you ever seen them, like, I think what I have to do is come in, learn from those guys, take it all in, and then earn my way, earn my keep. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to model your game after that guy when he's running up and down the field and stuff. Not many people can do what he can do, but just the toughness, the size, of course, the speed, the way he plays the game. You can tell he plays with an attitude. He plays with an edge. That's something that you gotta take in, especially as a rookie. You got to come in right away and take heed to that, learn from that. And figure out ways to, work alongside him, figure out ways to learn and follow his footsteps.
Yeah, and you love the production he had in college, right? That 1,400 yards, 110 receptions in 12 games, 9 touchdowns. He's someone that he can produce, and that's what you want on the field. So hopefully we can get him out there. I think he'd be a really good asset to this offense, and yeah, man, I had to put him in there.
Well, I'm going to move over to the quarterback room because I think there's another heated battle happening there. And for me, it's going to come down to, obviously, quarterback 1. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be QB 2.
No,
Skylar Thompson and Mike White. So QB 2 is really coming down to a financial issue for me. Right now, the Dolphins are strapped when it comes to the cap, and they're accounting for every single nickel. So making sure that we're not spending a dime somewhere where it's not being used properly is important right now. And if Mike White and Skylar Thompson are close in ability, I think it's time you dispose of White, move Skylar Thompson on up to QB2, for a lot cheaper. Mike White's cap hit is going to be $5.2 million this season, and Skylar Thompson's is just over $1 million.
It's a shame to have him at that cap hit. Someone that, he's not. He doesn't even play, and he's not going to be a difference maker, even if he has to step on the field.
Right. So that's why I'm saying if Skylar Thompson and him are really that close in ability, then you might as well just roll with Skylar Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut Mike White right now, you'll end up saving $3.5 million on the cap.
Yeah.
Which is significant.
Yeah, and I think, talking about that, you would want, in the case of I don't even like saying it, but an injury, right, to your starting quarterback, Mike White wouldn't be the guy. You wouldn't want him out there to begin with. So might as well take the cap savings now, and then in the event of something like that, you sign a guy off the street, like, you saw it with Joe Flacco. Maybe Ryan Tannehill's still out there, and it's like, okay, we can bring him in. I would feel a lot more comfortable than rolling with the rest of the season with Mike White. So
honestly, it's a good point. I don't see any of these guys being able to save the season.
No.
If Tua goes down. So
no one, but there are better options. And then in the event that would happen, you'd have the cap savings right now. You might have to spend it down the road, but maybe you don't have to. Maybe you go the rest of the year and you're like, oh, we were able to save that money, roll it on to the next year, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the heated camp battle. I would roll with Skylar. I think Mike White is going to have to have an impressive training camp to really change people's perspective here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you can't ignore the financial aspect of this.
Yeah.
Especially with the Tua situation lingering, and who knows where the Dolphins go with that. And,
it's crazy though, but because both will essentially make the team, right? Because Skylar Thompson is going to make the team as well, because with the new rule, I think the third quarterback doesn't count as a rostered quarterback, I guess. So it's a weird situation. I got to look into it a little bit better, but I know there's a way that you keep that third quarterback without. It's an emergency quarterback, right? But yeah, I guess I agree 100%. I think Skylar should be that second guy, because Mike White, he's not going to do it. So whatever.
Yeah, so that's going to be it for my training camp battles. Is there any other camp battle that you're looking at, or?
Not really. I'm very curious to see how the defensive tackle is going to be. I'm wondering how that room's going to shape up. Yeah. Obviously Sealer and Campbell are going to be there, but is Tier Tart going to be something worth having, or you see all these reports that he's out of shape and lazy, slowest guy out there, obviously the biggest guy, but whatever. Neville Gallimore, see if he has something in the tank. Yeah, I think it's an interesting position group, and I think there's a lot of guys with some talent that can possibly do something. So I want to see how that shakes out. Brought back in Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones is there. So yeah, man. Is there any other position groups that you're like, oh, maybe right guard?
I don't see much of a. I'm not super interested in. That's kind of a.
I mean, but it's an important position, right?
Position, yeah. But I'm just not really happy with right guard right now. I'm interested to see how our linebackers are going to look, because they're much improved. So
yeah, that's actually, you're right about that.
Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting to see how that unit looks, especially against the Bills. I know some of our guys were really excited about the linebackers and how we're going to be able to handle Josh Allen now a little bit better.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Anthony Walker Jr., Jordan Brooks, and replacing Jerome Baker, which I feel like he was extremely overpaid. It was $13 million a year that he was getting paid. Yeah. So you brought in these guys for significantly cheaper, and with just as much or more ability, in that room. And I think Jordan Brooks is an automatic upgrade. you know, I really want to see what he could do with our other linebackers that are coming back, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's hold on.
Well, let's get on to the not so great news
Yeah.
from yesterday. Let's roll the clip.
But right now, there's 5 words that are looming over this contract negotiation, and they're the words that came out of Tua's mouth. The market is the market. He said that after Jared Goff had signed his deal and before Trevor Lawrence signed his. The complicated part of this is the Dolphins could point at that Jared Goff deal and say, well, we're not the Detroit Lions. We're not making that decision. But when Trevor Lawrence then leapfrogs it, you've got a situation because right now, the Dolphins are not offering the contract that is the market value based on those other deals that were done. So if this gets there, it's just going to require more negotiations. And we're not to panic point just yet. I just think that my optimism earlier has to be slightly scaled back at this point, given all of those factors currently in play.
Jeff, real quick, bud. So when you say the Dolphins right now aren't offering what the market of those other, are we talking Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence type of market?
Yes, that is the market. I don't want to get too far into the nuance of numbers because, quite frankly, I don't know them. But based on my conversations, they are not in the Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence ballpark. And that, to me, speaks volumes about where the negotiations are right now. Again, though, keyword, negotiations. We all know. We've all been through them. We know that it can change in a minute.
So, yeah, it doesn't seem like good news for Tua or the Dolphins.
Yeah, always something, right? Yeah. You'd hate for this to be an issue, right? Because it's just something I feel like we've been saying this for a few shows now. You just got to get it done, right? This is your quarterback. There's really nothing else out there. It's not like you can go and draft someone. We're going to be way too good for that. Do you want to go ahead and sign someone else? You're still going to have to pay someone regardless. Who are you going to sign? Maybe Dak Prescott if he's let go, right? You're essentially just getting yourself back into the same situation with another quarterback because someone that you consider better than Tua is not going to be available to sign. So,
well, that's an interesting point. Not only because someone that you consider necessarily better than Tua, but this system was built for Tua's strengths.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of other quarterbacks lack. Like, Tua is the best at what he does.
And you see Dan Orlovsky saying that left and right. He said there's only about 5 quarterbacks that he believes can run this system like Tua, right?
Yeah, so you're not going to get those guys.
Yeah, and it basically proves a point that we have made. You know, we got this guy Dan Orlovsky, former quarterback, a guy that studies a position like no one else, right? He's basically telling you this isn't a system that anyone can play in. You know, people are saying back when we had Skylar Thompson and we do have Skylar Thompson, but when we had Skylar Thompson and Jacoby Brissett, sorry, not Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, in the same room, they're like, oh, they can do it just as good or better than Tua. Look, they got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. It's not about that.
No.
This system is basically plays to Tua's strengths. The way he processes his accuracy, his timing, he does that better than anyone else in the NFL, or at least just as good as the best guy, right?
Yeah, so how are you going to build this roster and this team for Tua and then not give him the confidence to play?
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, too. Aside from not paying him, now you're also not giving him that confidence stepping into this season.
Do you think this is possibly like a nothing burger? Like, do you think this is like, you know, there's always these little reports. We saw it with Waddle. You know, no one was expecting this deal to get done before Tua's, right? So everyone's like, yeah, they're not even considering Waddle right now. You hear those reports, and then out of nowhere, it's like, no, Waddle got his deal done, and
I'm really hoping so.
Yeah,
because there's so many ways that this can go too. Imagine, you know, the Dolphins are thinking, hey, we're going to pay him 40, 45. Because apparently the report is they weren't even looking at the Goff contract thinking that was close. So what if Tua balls out now next year? And what are you going to pay him?
Here's the thing. I think obviously Tua's camp is playing hardball with us, right? I think the Dolphins have their price. I think they're trying to be stern with it because, you know, that's how they do business. They're not going to like
They're
bend.
trying to build a roster.
They did the same thing with Wilkins. They did it with Connor Williams last year. They're like, yeah, we're not paying you top money. So, like, you know, take a hike if you have to. Did that pan out for Connor Williams? No. You know, he was essentially getting greedy. He hadn't shown enough to be asking for what he wanted as one of the top centers in the league, right? Getting paid in that regard. Is Tua willing to go into the season and say, all right, I'll play on the deal, on the 5th-year option, and you know what? If I ball out, you got to really pay me. Or is he saying, damn, that gives me no security. If I go into the season and I get hurt, this can really, like, it can set me back. Possibly I would even sign for way less than I'm getting offered right now. Do you think that can be a possibility as well? Because I don't think he has any leverage right now.
I think Tua as a competitor would be a. I don't think he's gonna enjoy not getting the contract, but I see him as a competitor stepping up to the challenge and doing everything he can in his power to put together a winning season.
I just see that if he goes into the season, like it's just not a smart move financially as well, because now you have all these
for who?
For Tua.
Oh, for Tua. Well,
for Tua.
What can he do though?
Exactly. So that's my point. He doesn't have any leverage. So he's gonna say, okay, first of all, going into training camp, he can't just say like, I'm not gonna show up. That's a $50,000 fine every single time you don't show up. He's not going to take that hit. You're already trying to squeeze the most out of this contract, and then what, you're going to take these fines? It's not like we can give it back to him later on, you know? So I just don't see him going into the season without that contract getting done. And it seems like he's probably even frustrated with his representation, you know what I'm saying? Like his agent. I don't, like, this guy is known for, I guess, trying to squeeze the most out of everyone. I think he's trying to corner the market, the quarterback market, and, you know, sign all these guys. So he's trying to make the higher this goes, the better it is for him, because he's got a bunch of quarterbacks signed under him as well, right?
Yeah.
And this could lead us into a different problem if we don't, also for the Dolphins, if they don't get it done, because Jordan Love, it looks like that there's been some reports that he's about to get a deal done. And
another thing that's crazy is it's going to be interesting to see Jordan Love's contract.
Yeah, for someone that hasn't proven anything either.
But it kind of, from what we've been hearing, it doesn't seem like he's going to get some wish-washy kind of contract. It seems like the real deal Holyfield over there.
Yeah, man, and it leads you back to people with a certain stature, right? In the NFL, like, you got to be big, you got to have that arm, some weird little athleticism, right? So maybe that's what's holding this deal back. I understand that Tua had his injury concerns before all that. I think the Dolphins are just really banking on the fact that they have all the leverage and Tua has none right now. And I don't personally like it, but it might work out in our favor. Maybe we get him for cheaper. Maybe Tua says, bro, screw it. What's 50 compared to 55? Like, just give me the 50. I'm good. I'm set. My kids are set. My wife is set.
I wish you would take that Tom Brady approach.
That's what,
cool.
You know, when we first got Tua, I thought that's what we would have had in a Tua, right? Like, maybe this guy doesn't care so much about money.
So
it does. And I understand it.
It's easy to say one thing, but when they put that money in front of you, and we're talking crazy money,
man, but
it's hard to ignore.
But Tom Brady built his name, right? And that building his name was way more than a contract that you could have signed in the NFL.
That's a good point.
It led to all these sponsorships.
Sacrificing a little bit of money on the front end to build this legacy that's going to pay you crazy money for the rest of your life.
Dude, legend, right? He's the best quarterback ever.
Best quarterback of all time.
I mean, he was able to sign a huge deal with Fox right after just because he's Tom Brady. He's the name.
An interesting question. How many times was Tom Brady the best quarterback in the NFL that year? Like, how many times was he the best quarterback in the NFL for a given season? It wasn't many.
It usually wasn't that he played as the best quarterback. He just did what the best quarterbacks would do, which is win it all.
Right. Yeah.
you know?
He was a winner, the ultimate winner.
Which is what you want. And it's crazy because Tua's proving it on a different level. He's doing it with stats as well, but that's all we're missing. We need him to be that winner. We need him to win those important games. So.
They're winning in the beginning of the season. If they can carry that over towards the second half of the season and into the playoffs, then we'd be chilling.
Which is what we need. We need these guys to stay healthy. We need Tua's line to be out there. We need his receivers. And, you know, I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, Tua needs everything perfect around him to win. That's the majority of quarterbacks, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Quarterbacks don't win with no one, or, you know, there's situations that you just can't overcome. And that unfortunately happens to Tua.
There's only one Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And every single other NFL
So that's
team
not a valid
wishes they would have
argument.
him.
If someone says Patrick Mahomes did it,
Well,
dude,
there's
it's
only
not-
one Patrick Mahomes.
And there's only going to be one Patrick Mahomes ever.
Yeah.
Because that guy is, when it, you know, obviously Tom Brady's the GOAT, right?
Right.
Patrick Mahomes is not too far behind, man. If he
I
continues
think
down this,
statistically, I think he's ahead of Tom Brady in his career.
if he has the same type of career, 20 years, all that stuff, right? So,
which the way that the NFL is progressing too, they're trying to keep these quarterbacks upright as much as possible.
Yeah.
making the game safer.
That's
and
better for the
everything.
sport,
So,
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you know, going back to the whole point with Tua, do you think I had a valid point there? Maybe that he doesn't have much leverage.
He doesn't. He's gonna have to. He'll probably have to play out the season though.
Another question. Do you think that is possible? You think that he's going to go into the season without a contract?
You know, at this point, anything is possible.
I don't
think it's a great idea for him, to be completely honest. I think, you know, he would be gambling on himself, but he is a competitor, and he might say, "All right, man, you guys you're gonna do this. I'm gonna show you."
I just think hearing Jeff Darlington in that, you know, when he did that segment, it didn't sound like he's like, "This is bad." You know, it's like, "Oh, my optimism is kind of pushed back a little bit, but nothing to freak out over." You know what I'm saying? So this is obviously Tua's camp pushing this out. I think it's mostly nothing, but it is something to talk about, you know?
You know, the media needs to put out stories, and Tua is a hot topic.
Of course.
So
he's been a hot topic since he's gone into the league.
Maybe he heard a little something, and he's like, "All right, if I could just, you know, spice it up a little bit, I can get some news, get some FaceTime out there."
Hey, it's great for him too. Everyone's talking about Jeff Darlington and what he said. You know, we're talking about it. Other YouTubers are talking about it.
Yeah.
There's reports everywhere. I mean, I understand it. I think if I was in the position, I would too. And he's being fed information from Tua's camp. Remember, this is something to get the fans going crazy. Maybe, you know, have pitchforks outside of the office, like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing, man?" Then Chris Greer might be like, "Shit, bro, we got to get this deal done. Look at the Dolphin fans, man. They're going crazy." You know,
I hope they get a deal done before the season, because I am crazy done talking about
I don't
Tua's
want to talk
contract
about
situation.
it anymore. Yeah, I really don't.
I just want to talk about football, not about all this money stuff, you know?
Yeah, and it's crazy because you don't want to talk about it. We're obviously here talking about it, but it's such a big topic because without Tua, this whole franchise has been trash. We have our quarterback now, and then it's like, are you really gonna blow this up? Are you gonna consider blowing this up again and maybe having us go through another 20-something years without a quarterback?
20-year drought? That's terrible.
Nah, man.
Even the players are getting pretty angry about it. I know Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Teron Armstead, they've talked about it. Jalen Waddle's talked about it too. There's actually, let's roll this clip of Tyreek talking about it.
Tua's situation in terms of the fact that the contract still hasn't gotten done for him.
Tua should have been paid. I've been saying this all offseason, man, and I know we got a great, front office with Greer and Shore, and they gonna get it done. Obviously a lot of people are comparing the Jared Goff situation and stuff like that, but I mean, I feel like Tua is supposed to be up there with some of them guys and past some of them guys, man, because just understanding his story and just the progression of how he's getting better each and every year and how he's carrying this offense is crazy. So he's going to continue to get better. Because I feel like when you get a new contract, they're not paying you for what you did. They paying you like it's almost like a investment. You feel me? It's not. Yeah, it's almost like an investment of what you're gonna do in the future. So he's continually getting better. He's gradually getting better each and every year. Last year was Pro Bowl. This year gonna be a playoff win and on much more. So Tua should have been paid. Oh yeah, what I'm saying out of Tua, man, like, I ain't gonna lie. When I see Tua at the Pro Bowl, I was kind of scared. Dude was, but, he was fat. He was chubby. I was like, hold on now, bruh. Hold on, bro. Like, Ryan Clark said you were kind of thick. Now, he wasn't lying, but seeing him now and where he's come from and how skinny he has gotten, what's that stuff with everybody taking? Ozempic? He had to be taking that, bro, because I don't know. But what I'm seeing from him now is, like, a lot of the guys are getting together outside of here, man, like hanging out, you know, running routes together, spending that off-field time together. And Tua is doing a great job of, like, orchestrating that, man. And that's a beautiful thing, because our first few years, we'll do it here and there. But this year, like, he's really honing in on the guys, like, hanging out, building that camaraderie with each other. And that's a beautiful thing, man. So for him to have such leadership within that and to be a family man, it's a beautiful thing, man. Like, he's growing. He's growing, man. And, like, you can obviously see it, you know, whenever we step out on the field. And we don't even got all our pieces out there with with myself, with Waddle in the mix, with Joe New, all the guys, Raheem, A-Chain, all of us clicking all at one time. It's going to be a beautiful thing, man. So excited for this year.
So, yeah, you can see Tyreek really wants Tua to get the Dolphins to get a deal done for Tua, too.
I mean, why wouldn't he, right?
Yeah.
He's at his best years of his career with Tua. So it says something, man. Tua is special. I don't care what other people say. I think the deal needs to get done. I don't mind that we're doing this in a weird way, because if it does pan out that we can get him cheaper,
that'd be great.
We got to steal.
Yeah,
you know?
that'd be great.
But it's hard, man. It's hard.
Well, anyway, we'll see what happens with Tua. Hopefully they figure things out within the next week or two.
Yeah, man. Is there anything else you'd like to go over, maybe? Something interesting that you saw?
No, you know what? Just want to say thank you to everyone that's been checking us out in the mornings, and, you know, we're having a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, we appreciate the support, guys, for real.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. I think that's going to be it for today. We're going to wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
let's wrap it up.
Yeah, guys, make sure to subscribe, leave us a thumbs up, send us a little comment, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Later, guys. Fins up.